There are plenty great Android devices on the market for DS emulation. From Surface Duo to LG V60 to DIY solutions, anyone who can't find a proper DS emulator likely isn't looking, or maybe just doesn't have the budget. While Android has been a great platform for dual-screen emulators, devices have never been cheap. That is, until now. At about $85, the MagicX Zero 40 is marketed as a DS emulator for those on a budget. With an extra tall display, it's designed to accommodate two stacked virtual displays while allowing space for a hinge gap. The setup's not bad. For the types of folks previously content to play DS games on their slab phones, it's a design that makes a ton of sense. Unfortunately, even for those folks, it's still a rather hard sell. To dig into that a bit deeper, let's first go over the design. The Zero 40 has an unusual shell shaped around its 4-inch 4x5 display. Picking it up, it's immediately obvious that it's a sub-$100 device. The plastics don't necessarily feel cheap, but they're also far from premium, with an overall weight that doesn't feel otherwise. A small size, flat back, and straight sides don't help ergonomics any. If I'm not holding it in just the right way, long gameplay sessions haven't been the most comfortable experience. Although I am willing to chalk that up to just being a large adult. For a smaller person, I'm betting the Zero 40 might feel a bit better. In fact, its build, price, and size really lend itself toward handing to a kid without a ton of concern it'll break. Though the kid might need some help charging the device. Like other cheap handhelds, MagicX opted for two USB-C ports with different functionalities. Only the left port can actually charge the device, but the label almost disappears completely at an angle. I'm sure this split USB-C setup is a cost-saving measure. However, I'm more than ready for manufacturers to stop including them. Given the built-in Wi-Fi and dual microSD ports, I'd be more than happy to drop the OTG port altogether to avoid confusion. For input, the Zero 40 has a 3DS layout, albeit with the D-pad and thumbstick smartly swapped. I'm a big fan of the textured shoulder and trigger buttons. They feel pleasant to rest my fingers on, and, well, I'd typically want a bit more travel here. The low profile is a solid choice to make the device more pocketable. I'm likewise a fan of the clickable stick. On any other device, I'd probably hate it, but it works well here. Its concave stick cap and short tilt angle are more than serviceable as a D-pad substitute. I much prefer MagicX's stick choice here compared to a less precise slider or one of those cheap half-height sticks found on other similarly priced handhelds. Unfortunately, their choices for D-pad and action buttons weren't quite as good. Both inputs are usable, but don't feel the best. The D-pad feels overall mushy and bottoms out quite hard. At its lowest point, it's almost flush with the shell. Due to its small size, I constantly feel like my thumb's pushing against the shell when using the D-pad. Considering this device is made explicitly to play D-pad-centric games, that's not great. The action buttons suffer from similar issues. They have a bit more pop than the D-pad, but still bottom out hard and too flush with the shell. Their small size also doesn't do them any favors. At any point in time, my thumb's touching two or more buttons. It's not exactly comfortable. If MagicX had increased their size just a bit and spaced them further apart, it would have done wonders. As you can imagine, none of this adds up to a solid gaming experience that I'd enthusiastically recommend, but they aren't necessarily deal breakers. For its price, I've used much worse devices before, and honestly, it running Android 10 makes the user experience much better than anything I've seen from competitors like Anbernic over the years. Unlike those devices, the Zero 40 comes with premium features like a touchscreen, on-screen volume slider that isn't busted, and system settings that aren't garbage. These budget devices have a pretty low bar for user experience, and the Zero 40 does manage to leap over it. Game selection's also quick and easy. The Zero 40's Dawn launcher feels clean and quick to access my library of games. It did take a moment to recognize which on-screen menus navigate via shoulders, triggers, or D-pad, but after a beat, the interface feels snappier and more logical than many of the Linux-based handhelds I've tested. By default, the launcher only shows two system options: DS via Drastic and Tate mode games via RetroArch. That's really all I'd ever recommend playing on this device, so no complaints from me. Although if you wanted to install a different emulator, like Melon DS, sideloading is as easy here as on any other Android device. Different cores and emulators can also be selected from launcher settings with a few taps. It's clear that someone at some point actually put thought into all this. I appreciate it. For all the gripes I have about buttons and style, the comfortable user interface has made playing games on the Zero 40 pretty painless. Well, except for when I can't just tap on the screen to select a game from the launcher. When actually playing a game, the experience also isn't too bad. I'm still of the stance that DS games are better played across two displays with a hinge in between. However, I could see an argument for certain games being played this way, without adding additional sticks or buttons. Aiming in Metroid Prime Hunters felt oddly natural, with the aiming area on the same plane as the main display. Games like Yoshi's Island DS and Sonic Rush also make liberal use of extending gameplay between displays, and make a ton of sense for this sort of form factor. Many folks will be tempted to break out a generic stylus to play, but I wouldn't bother. Due to the display's small size, a stylus is a bit too large to feel comfortable. Many of the rubber nib styluses will even likely feel less accurate than just using your finger. For games like Meteos and Pokemon Troze, I've had no problems accurately hitting small targets with my finger. I wouldn't consider it my preferred way of playing either game. However, folks choosing this experience likely won't have a bad time. For the most part, overall performance is also rock solid. Drastic's a mature emulator. Most moderately performant devices in the past decade have been able to adequately play DS games. But performance isn't exactly perfect. Colors look a bit too saturated. As a result, the vibe of certain scenes can look a bit off, and blacks can look a bit crushed when brightness is turned down. For most folks, this will only become a problem when comparing between devices, but the low price point's also in MagicX's favor here. It's not quite ideal. Similarly, I've found at least one notable performance oddity with Metroid Prime Pinball. During gameplay, the system randomly started playing the game at 2x speed. It's a bug I've never seen before, despite this game being one that I've tested on over a dozen Android devices at this point. While I'm positive this specific issue might be solvable by tweaking some settings, it's a possible sign that you could run into some issues not found on other Android devices, likely either due to this version of Drastic or just the low-powered all-winner A133P inside the Zero 40. And that's kind of the main story for the MagicX Zero 40. Even with better Android devices existing for DS gameplay, the Zero 40 is a decent but flawed, cheap experience. I've had fun playing certain games on the system. I've no doubt others would feel the same. I just couldn't seriously recommend it to anyone. Looking past the display quality and possible performance jank, I can't get past the display being so small. Each virtual display is much smaller than even a DS Lite's displays. As a result, gameplay for text-heavy games feels cramped and less comfortable to read when holding the handheld at a comfortable distance. If your main DS emulation goals are to play RPGs like Pokemon, Final Fantasy, or Dragon Quest, you won't have the most comfortable time with the Zero 40. Even if it impacted pocketability, I would have preferred that they went with a display at least as wide as a standard smartphone. At that size, gameplay would be much more comfortable and it'd be much easier to recommend. As it stands, there are much better options on the market. If you're looking for something cheap to play DS games, DSi's can be found for much cheaper than even the Zero 40. Add Twilight menu and games can even be played off SD cards. On top of getting better buttons and pocketability, you'll also remove any potential compatibility issues. The displays may not be quite as modern, but in person, I actually like them a bit more than the Zero 40. Of course, if you absolutely need emulation because you can't live without emulation-specific features, you could also just spend the money on a controller and adapter for your phone. You'll get better buttons, a larger, better display, and be able to comfortably emulate systems other than a DS. Especially for folks with an old smartphone gathering dust in a drawer somewhere, it's a solid option that'll likely yield a much better experience. Ultimately, the MagicX Zero 40 is a neat device. It's cheap and feels cheap, but has good enough software to create a generally good gameplay experience. For the right person, who could overlook some lackluster input and a small display, it could be just the right device to casually play some DS games. The hitch is that unlike other Android-based dual-screen experiences, playing on it doesn't come close to the comfort of playing on original hardware. Due to its awkward shape, there's not really any reason for me to choose it over one of my DSIs. Likewise, the screen feels just cramped enough that I'm liable to recommend stacked screens on a slab phone over it, which is still far from ideal. I respect what MagicX was going for with the Zero 40. I'd love to see another iteration in the future that improves on the form factor. But as it stands right now, you'd be better off looking elsewhere if you're interested in DS games. Those are my thoughts though. Now's the time when I ask for yours. Have you picked up the Zero 40 and have thoughts of your own? Or are you looking to buy one but have additional questions? Let me know down in the comments. As always, if you found this video helpful or informative, go ahead and give it a like to let me know, and then get subscribed for more dual screen emulators in the very near future. If you're interested in picking up the MagicX Zero 40 for yourself, I'll have some shop links down in the video description. When I ordered mine through MagicX's shop using 4px, it also got stuck in customs for a solid 2 weeks, so I'll include a lit NXT link if you want an alternative option. If you'd also like to see some other dual screen options, I'll have links to other videos on the screen, as well as some extra videos down below. That's going to be all for this video though. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. Until next time, catch you later.